welcome you all for the next plan. Today, let's go into day 1 of God's will for you. Let's begin today's discussion by quoting a verse from the Holy Bible. The verse is from the Psalm chapter 143 verse 10. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. May your good spirit lead me on level ground. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. May your good spirit lead me on level ground. God's will can be understood in two ways, namely God's sovereign will and God's revealed will. God's sovereign will and God's revealed will. For today's discussion, we are going to look into God's sovereign will. God's sovereign will is also known as the decreed will of God or the hidden will of God. As a sovereign God, He brings to pass whatever He pleases by His divine decree. And this will is hidden because we are usually unaware of God's sovereign and decreed will until what He has decreed takes place. God's sovereign will extends over all of creation, including us, over every decision made over the salvation of people, over evil and wickedness, over birth, life, health and death. All things work according to His sovereign will, and none of God's plan can be prevented. God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-wise and all-good, and His sovereign will reflects His character as a benevolent and gracious God. If anything has happened, it is because God has sovereignly ordinated and permitted it. Nothing comes to pass without His knowledge, and what He plans to do, nothing can stop it. Some wrestle with this idea of God's sovereignty and assume it contradicts man's free will. The scriptures hold both these truths together without contradiction. This is called a paradox. They seem to contradict each other, yet it is true. God's sovereignty over your life should not scare you, but comfort you. You can be certain that God will accomplish all His purposes concerning you. The good work He began, He will complete it. Not a single hair from your head falls without His knowledge. He knows you by name and delights in you. You can be certain that even the difficult trials in your life are allowed with a loving reason. Though we may not fully understand, we can rest in His power to save and rescue us. And this confidence in our Father's love is rooted in the gospel. If He did not spare His own Son to redeem and save us, to forgive us and adopt us as His own, then nothing can stop Him from all the good He intends for us and through us. Let's add some Bible verses to our discussion. It's from the letter of Paul to the Romans, chapter 9, verses 15 and 16. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whomever I have mercy, and I will have compassion on whomever I have compassion. So then God's choice is not dependent on human will, nor on human effort, but on God who shows mercy. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whomever I have mercy, and I will have compassion on whomever I have compassion. So then God's choice is not dependent on human will, nor on human effort, but on God who shows mercy. So trust God's sovereign will and begin to rest in Him without anxiety, worry or fear. It's end of today's session. Thank you all. Stay tuned. See you the next following day.